On this week's episode of Destination Linux, we have a very special interview with Simon Quigly from Lubuntu. Welcome to episode number 347 of Destination Linux, your favorite video podcast. My name is Ryan.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Michael.
We've got lots of great content to get into, so let's get on the road towards Destination Linux. So our feedback this week comes from Michael, not our Michael, a different Michael. Apparently, there's more than one person
There's
named
more
Michael.
than one person named Michael? That can't be right. Except for the fact that the year of my birth and also 6 other instances, the name Michael was the most popular for a boy. I learned that one time a while back.
Look at that. Little facts you learn on this show. If you listen to the show, you're going to learn all kinds of amazing facts like that Michael was apparently a popular name without any dates. All right, so Michael goes on to say...
Who needs dates, people?
Who needs dates, yeah. Says, love the show. I have been a long-time Linux user, and recently I ran into a new problem. For work, I have to type a lot, so I got a point where I injured my hand from typing. I use Windows for work, and I've been able to use Super plus H to use speech-to-text engine to do email and fill out text fields. However, my Linux desktop has started to sit unused because I can't find a way to set up a similar feature in Linux. Any help with that? So I think there's probably a lot of people who could find this useful. I did some research out there. I think the big difference here right out of the box is that this feature is kind of built into Windows, and we don't have that accessibility built into distros. And this is something we've actually talked about quite a bit. Not only with developers, but on the show as a general topic. And they know this is kind of a weak area. And it really, and from an accessibility standpoint, whether it's mobility site or other things, like this can keep a lot of people from being able to utilize Linux and open source. This is a big deal. And a lot of communities definitely need to kind of get involved here in having these apps as default. Since we don't have those apps in a lot of cases as default, there's Pico Voice, which is an option that is more universal in that it can access the entire OS and kind of do some speech to command to text options out there. But it is a subscription-based service. There's a free version of it, but there's a subscription-based version of it as well. And it looked like it could do a lot of the things that Windows can do with that built-in feature. I've not been able to test it. It's just one of the things that I found in looking. I did, however, see SpeechNote, which is an open source speech to text app that will translate your speech to text, but you would need to cut and paste it, obviously, into your email client and things. It's not doing it from the email client itself. But then I started thinking about you, Michael, because you're kind of the shortcut king. Like you have a whole keyboard that sits on the side of your other main keyboard that's just for macros and shortcuts and keys that you're showing right now to our audience. So shortcuts could definitely help in this case for the accessibility of, getting around with one hand in the operating system and setting up certain shortcuts.
Shortcuts are very useful. And depending on what you're needing to do, it's very, very useful. Now, you can set up shortcuts to do like canned messages. That would be good to easily expand text into like a consistent use case. Or if you have... There's also a text expander thing where you can type a few letters and then hit a tab or something like that and expand the text out to be much more. But these are more for things that are predetermined, text that you're going to send. So it's not going to be like a regular typing solution. But shortcuts are also something that you would maybe want to consider because they will help you get around faster and also perform certain tasks faster if you only can use one hand, for example. So I have a solution for this problem that it will work. It's a little convoluted, but I think it will basically work exactly what you want. And it's really cool that it'll do it, but it requires your phone. So your phone will have a dragging dictation, or maybe if you have an Android device, it has the Google Assistant system, or the Apple situation where you can do dictation through an Apple phone and that sort of stuff. But what's cool about that is this will work with both Apple phones and Android phones because there's a feature you can install called KDE Connect. And KDE Connect is amazing in a lot of ways. It has clipboard synchronization. It has file transfer stuff. But one of the coolest things that's not mostly known about is that it has the ability to use your phone as an input device for your computer. So you can use the touchscreen as like a mouse pad, and you can use the keyboard as a keyboard entry for your computer. Now, this is important because if your keyboard has support for a voice dictation, like the Apple keyboard does, or like Dragon Dictation, or any of the apps that allow you to do voice to text, you can use that and then have it send through KD Connect into your Linux system, and will effectively provide you the ability to do voice to text in whatever quality you want, because you're just using an app that's already available to you on your phone.
That's an interesting solution. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I could see that working. But what it does make me think is, why is this so difficult in Linux and open source? I think this is a perfect project that should be solved from certainly one of the bigger distros out there, the corporations and things like that. You have, a lot of different employees with different accessibility constraints and things out there, that we should have this in Linux and open source software right from the default, and not something where we have this convoluted solution. But that's why I love the community's questions and things, because this is something I hadn't thought about as being an issue. We talked with Jill many times about some of the solutions we can do for people who have issues with their site and things like that, but we haven't had this particular question come up before. So if you're in the community and you have a solution, something that works really well, better than even our suggestions, make sure to send that in to us and we'll get it on the show. Go to tuxdigital.com/contact, or you can jump in our Discord and give the suggestion and feedback there directly to people who are asking, or on our forum, for instance, is a great place to list answers to some of these questions if you have a different solution than what we offered here. And we still have our question of the week, which is going to be, we still need more people to submit what's your favorite distro of 2023 and why, because we want to get a nice big populace here for this question. So if you have nothing else that you want to send to us, let us know your answer to that. What is your favorite distro of 2023?
And if you appreciate our show and want to send a comment, but you're not really sure what you want to do, and you just want to post a comment on YouTube to help with the algorithm, you can put your favorite emoji.
Some people collect Pokemon cards, others collect baseball cards.
Sure.
I've never told people this before, have a little bit of a collection of UFC trading cards.
Nice. I didn't even know those existed.
Yeah, they're out there. And collections are vast as people's interests. You can collect things for nearly every hobby out there. However, Michael on this show has the strangest hobby of all.
I have many hobbies and many collections.
No,
what are you talking about?
This one's very weird. You collect domain names. You collect domain names like nobody I've ever seen in my life.
That's just ridiculous.
That's true.
That's ridiculous. I only have about 70. What's
70, 100, like my kids would say. They're like, I want 70, 100 of this, because that's what, it's not just 70. Like Pokemon, Michael has to collect them all. Literally, and I mean this, any discussion we have with Michael about a new business thing always ends with, we should buy a domain for that. That's Michael's input of, let's buy a domain for that. He wants the .com, the .net, the .biz, the .community. He wants them all. He wants to collect them all because they're going out of style.
Okay, that's a bit excessive. I do have a lot of domains, and those conversations have happened. But .biz, really?
That's the one that got you. That's the one you're like, I don't collect those.
I have 3.
Those are for plebs.
I still have 3.
Pleb collectors are the .biz. So as you can imagine, this gets quite expensive for us. But thankfully, I was able to find a solution for that, and that's where NAMECHEAP comes in. NAMECHEAP is a place where, as you guessed by their name, you can buy domains for cheap. Therefore,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and you can also host sites, and they have other services there as well. So if you want to be like Michael and collect domain names, or you're actually starting a business and just need one, I suggest going to NAMECHEAP. This is where we get ours, and we have a link in the show notes where you can start your collection and support our show all at the same time. You can do both at the same time. In fact, they could probably go to a really clever URL that you probably bought, Michael.
I got a domain for this, Brian.
You do. What's that domain, Michael?
Destinationlinux.net/NameCheap.
See, the .net was the thing, but I wish it was .biz now, because then I've been like, you did buy a .biz.
Well,
so .net.
I could add to my collection, Ryan.
What about .tv?
Yeah, well, don't encourage him, Jill. So click that link and see if you can out-collect Michael.
We would like to welcome back Simon Quigly to the show. Simon is the release manager of Lubuntu. He's also a Kubuntu Ninja and Ubuntu core developer and a Debian developer. But most importantly, he's a longtime friend of the show and the original Linux prodigy. Simon, welcome back to the show.
So, Simon, before we get into anything else, let's talk about the Ubuntu Summit. Now, unfortunately, you had to run into Michael there.
Fortunately.
Unfortunate. Did you say fortunate? Fortunately, you got to run into Michael there, but you didn't get to see me and Jill. So, I mean, it couldn't have been the greatest event ever because we weren't there, but I heard it was still grandiose and an amazing event you're able to attend. And I'm curious, what were some of the highlights?
It wasn't just grande, it was venti, Ryan.
Venti grande event. What were some of the highlights for you from this event?
Some of the highlights really include the community members, the people I was able to really meet, interact with, people like Rudra from the Ubuntu Unity project. I got to meet Mark Shuttleworth, and a couple of the folks from Intel and DreamWorks and Microsoft were there as well. Yeah. So them among a couple of other huge vendors. They really were great people to talk to and talk with. When I go to the Ubuntu Summit, one of the things I really look for personally is the hallway track. It's really important to sit down and talk with a lot of these people. You know, you look at their badge and you'll say, this is someone that I've seen their username online for years, but I really haven't had the opportunity to really meet them face to face. And I think Canonical does a really great job of creating an event for those people to come together. In terms of my own personal highlights, I mean, I've never been to Latvia before. That was definitely an experience.
Yeah.
The travel was a little bit interesting, but that's part of
it. Always
there.
Is.
Mm-hmm. There were a couple of great talks. There were a few talks from DreamWorks on their movie software. There were a couple talks by Intel about some stuff they're doing within the community. And I really think it was just an incredible opportunity all the way around.
Also, the great marketing talk that was given by one of those individuals at the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that, Michael? They gave that?
It was
talk?
me.
Michael.
It was you.
It was
you
me.
gave a talk there? Man,
I did.
They gave you a mic? That's crazy.
They messed up and gave me a mic.
So, Simon, before the interview, we were talking and you mentioned running across Michael towards the end of the day. And he looked like he was about to fall over because of all of the equipment, interviews, running around the whole hall, all of these things. So is Michael a failfish here? Was he not able to keep up?
Oh.
No, I wouldn't say that. That's a little unfair to Michael. But I would say there were a couple of interviews, and I did watch your vlogs. There were a couple of interviews that you wanted to get to that just didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
Overall, no, I think Michael really did a lot during the summit. I was thankful to have him there. So.
Yeah.
Oh man,
he was a rock star
compliment,
at
Michael.
Ubuntu Summit. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you did good there. All right. And then you mentioned the talk tracks and then of course meeting people in between those talks and things. That it's a great community from a networking standpoint for somebody who is able to attend this event next year and things. How important is attending these events? Obviously you get to work in open source every single day. There's a lot of people who want that as a part of their lives. Would you say that attending these events is really important for somebody wanting to kind of break into open source as part of their job or livelihood in the future?
I would definitely say so. So I really draw a distinction between your usual, Southeast Linux Fest Northwest versus the Ubuntu Summit in that Ubuntu Summit has a lot of people specific to Ubuntu. If you're looking to get involved in the Ubuntu community, yes, definitely, I would encourage the Ubuntu Summit. And there's a lot of wider distribution folks that do end up attending the Ubuntu Summit. But I would say the Ubuntu Summit's a great opportunity to really, like I said before, sit down with people and have candid conversations that you really can't have online. Where you can say, "Oh, I'll buy you a beer. I want to hear your actual thoughts on this topic." And it's in terms of networking, it's an incredible opportunity, and I would say it's almost critical to maintaining things as well as they've been going the last couple of years.
So Simon, let's talk about Lubuntu. For those who are new to Linux and just starting to learn about different distros, what is Lubuntu and who is the target audience for this awesome distro?
So Lubuntu at its core is a free and open source Linux distribution based on Ubuntu. We are an officially recognized flavor within the Ubuntu ecosystem. And in fact, we have the largest current maintainer community out of any Ubuntu flavor. In terms of the use case for Lubuntu, it uses LXQt, which is,
Nice.
in fact, I would say the lightest desktop environment out of XFCE, Mate, all of those sorts of things. And it's really cool to me because I love the KDE Plasma community. I love KDE Plasma, but I find myself, if I install Plasma, tweaking a bunch of different options, and I spend a good couple of full-time days really getting my Plasma installed the way that I like it. The thing with Lubuntu, the thing we really try to do is have something that someone can just install their application and just start to get work done. That doesn't require a bunch of little customization to really get it the way that you want it to, because I mean, in a lot of places, those options simply aren't there. So Lubuntu is great for people who want a lightweight, modular base to use on their work laptops, on their computers. But it's also great for older hardware as well.
Yes.
We've sort of shifted away from that just a little bit, simply because it's difficult to maintain 20, 30-year-old hardware and actually publicly say, hey, we support this. This will definitely work. But in reality, a lot of people still do use Lubuntu on older machines, and that still is one of our largest use cases. And like I said earlier, it's Lubuntu. If you compare system resources side by side between Lubuntu, Xubuntu, Ubuntu Mate, which are usually the three that I see for older computers, Lubuntu comes out on top every single time. So,
I so agree, Simon. I've actually got Lubuntu on a lot of my old machines. I have almost 700 machines now in my vintage computer and old computer collection. And
this
so
is hilarious because I remember her first time telling us. The first time Jill told us about her computer collection, it was about 600.
Yeah.
In that period of time, she's already added another 100.
Wow.
It's true. And yeah, one of my the last one of the first installs I did of 22.04 Jammy Jellyfish was Lubuntu on some of my older machines, and it runs absolutely beautifully. I love how LXQt, the interface is improved. I love how you guys integrated the colors with the wallpapers and all the theming. It's just really top notch. It's beautiful.
I don't take credit for any of the artwork, by the way. There's a member who was there, who was in the project previously. His name is Raphael. Raphael Laguna actually did all of the artwork, and it's a running joke within the project actually, because I always threaten them every time I say, "Don't make me do the artwork this cycle. Don't make me do it. It's going to look really badly."
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like Ryan's thumbnails.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, so the artwork, I mean, we do use the ARC theme, so some of it is not our own homegrown stuff, obviously. But on the theming aspect too, we just added 2 more themes in our default install. I actually have them here. One of them is a Windows 11 theme. The other one's based on Yaru. So we're really also expanding that.
Cool.
So
that's interesting. So the Windows 11, so people coming from Windows will have more of a familiar kind of interface when they're first starting out, I assume is the purpose behind that.
Yeah. And it's, it's opt-in. So if somebody's like, I don't like Windows at all, totally cool. That's the power of open source. That's the power of using different themes.
Yep. Awesome.
And it's good to have that as an option for people who do want it, because there are going to be people who want to pick a particular distro specifically because it's an easy, getting started with situation. Mm-hmm. But earlier you mentioned that Lubuntu has the largest contributor base out of all the Ubuntu flavors. So how do you manage a large contributor base like that in terms of just being as a project and overall, but also the logistics of it?
So at first it was a little bit of a challenge. When I first started in the project, it was maybe 1 and 2 other people. Over time, we really started to develop a little bit of a system like, okay, you're the release manager, you're the QA manager, and those titles really weren't strictly enforced. It was, you're the release manager today, but it was just a tightly knit collection of developers. Over time, as we made the switch to LXQt, that's really when our community sort of blossomed and transformed into what it is today. So originally we founded the Ubuntu Constitution. I want to say around 2018, we wrote the Constitution, just a very, very minimal. This is how the project structure works. So we have something to refer to. And then the Ubuntu Council, actually, which Wendy, an editor for Destination Linux, actually was one of the initial members of.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the governing body. And then we have a system where we have Lubuntu developers that have specific upload access to Lubuntu. And we have Lubuntu members, which are inherently Ubuntu members, but they're also active members within the project. So we, unlike other membership systems, we have to renew once a year, and only our active contributors are members. That's kind of different between Ubuntu membership, but we do consider them emeritus members if they previously held membership. So I guess in terms of how you manage that, really, it comes down to a couple of things. Having a good structure, something to refer to, something that really everyone's on the same page about. I'm not going to say the Ubuntu Constitution's perfect because, I wrote that, when I was 16 or 17. So I'm sure there's a couple of bits in there that I really need to refine as a Ubuntu council. But having a structure at which, it's all defined. There's been times where even I've wanted to feature something before and I bring it up to general discussion and the Ubuntu Council decides, no, we don't want to go that direction. An example is about a couple months ago, I decided that I wanted to switch Lubuntu completely to Matrix. That was a situation in which I was voted down, but it helps keep the wider community interests there if you have a body of people rather than a benevolent dictator. So it's having that structure there. And it's also encouraging people to do things they're passionate about. So specifically, we have a couple of members on the team that do QA. They are amazing at QA. In fact, later today, I'm going to advocate one of them for main Ubuntu membership. And they love doing the work in QA, so we empower them to do that work in QA. They have all the permissions to push buttons. Now, our developers, again, we have Ubuntu developer stuff, membership specifically there. If someone's really interested in development, we have a way to empower them to take that a step further. So when you join the community, one of the first things we ask is, what are you interested in? What kind of skills do you have? What kind of passions do you have? And we try to integrate you within either an existing team of passionate volunteers, or we sort of guide you in starting your own little sub-project. So in terms of active Lubuntu members that have been active in the past year and renewed, we're up to 10. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's the other thing, too, that I'll even mention is that I write a message to Lubuntu members once a cycle, basically saying, I understand that some of the work you do might be a little bit thankless. QA work, you're sitting there reinstalling Lubuntu on the computer, however many times you're testing every little button and every little widget. So something that's important to me every 6 months when we release something, I tell everyone, take that next weekend off. I insist, take the weekend off. I'll handle whatever comes in and go and celebrate. I'm incredibly thankful for the work that you guys do, and you should take the opportunity to go in and celebrate that with your friends, with your community. So,
and there's plenty of room for more people who want to get involved in the community and things like that for those listening right here. And so, I love that you have that organization and structure. Yeah. I think a lot of people were probably afraid initially to get involved with the project because they're going, what am I going to work on? Are they going to find something for me to do? And I've heard universally from everybody who does the kind of work that you do, like, just get in there, tell us what your talents are. We'll find you something that you can help in and get involved in. I did want to go back though. You mentioned, the benevolent dictator thing. When Wendy from Linux Out Loud and also our editor joined Lubuntu, did you find that she fit the perfect role as the benevolent dictator?
Oh,
or did she try to become that?
No, actually, no.
Huh? Weird.
If anything, I've been the benevolent dictator, but no, Wendy was a great addition to the team when we had her, and I would encourage her definitely to come back. We need some art skills, definitely. And for anyone listening, if you are a graphic artist, if you really like the way that Lubuntu looks, if you have the spare time and skills and passion to contribute, we would love to have you in the project because we really need somebody these days that's dedicated to doing that, delivering that experience. Awesome. So
cool. That's awesome. Let's talk about the latest release of 23.10 with Lubuntu. What are some standout features that were in this latest release?
So in general, I would say with 2310, it was a little bit more of a polished release. So we had a new version of LXQt, of course, and with LXQt releases these days, there's not really a lot of major shiny features. It's more of like a bug fix polish thing. Now that's going to change, and I'll talk about that coming up with 2410, where LXQt's working on some major stuff. But generally speaking, with LXQt updates, it's more of a polished bug fix thing. Specifically in terms of features that we've architected, we have the upgrade notifier actually is a little bit more descriptive there. There's support for new release upgrades, that sort of thing, really just to get feature parity with what you would expect to be in a Linux distribution. Again, our goal is not really to just, layer 5 layers on top of it and just and have all these configuration settings. It's really just to provide something simple that has basic feature parity. So 2310 was really the release where we included a lot of those elements, and we're continuing to do that. In fact, I'd say at a greater scale for 2404. So
Simon, the rumor is that you've been working on something really interesting related to backport PPAs. But because we got a lot of new listeners and people just coming into Linux, let's start with, before we get into what that cool thing is, what are backport PPAs for people who are just getting into Linux and kind of learning about the various terminology?
So originally, when users go to install Ubuntu, they're presented with two different download options. They're presented with 2204 and 2310. So one's a long-term support release. We assume that most people choose this one. And then there's 2310, which provides just our latest stable snapshot of all the things we're working on for the next LTS. In terms of the backport PPA, we decided to create sort of a third channel, if you will. So you would install 2204 LTS. You have that same stable Lubuntu base, or the Ubuntu base rather, and Lubuntu updates are just layered on top of that. So just to read from the announcement, because I think it clearly describes what exactly backports do. Our backports PPA is modeled after Kubuntu's. It exists to provide the latest LXQt desktop stack on top of a stable Ubuntu base. The concept could also be considered similar to KDE Neon. So it's sort of a rolling top on top of the existing Ubuntu stable layer. As time goes on, our development focus will continue to be on new releases, and we plan on landing and testing changes there prior to pushing them to backports. We used to have a 1-week rule, sort of, but it's sort of gone by the wayside a little bit because we're testing so much. That being said, this is a perfect middle ground between stability and new features that users of all experience levels will be able to enjoy. So it's that third channel that I was sort of talking about.
So Simon, you explained kind of what backport PPAs are, and one of the things that you're doing uniquely, you're saying in Lubuntu, is making those available, the 23.10 to the LTS, or is that something that's a feature across all of the various distros kind of do this with backport PPAs?
So Kubuntu really pioneered the idea of a backports repository, sort of in conjunction with KDE Neon. Of course, you could install the backports PPA on any Ubuntu distribution, but this is something that I guess is sort of unique in that we provide a wholesale backport of the entire new desktop environment. And that's not something I'd say that I see frequently around other flavors in their spaces, especially with how we're going to incorporate that in the user experience.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So if I'm a new user out there and I hear about the backports PPA, what are some of the use cases in which I may want to go out there and utilize that functionality in it?
So if you install 2204 just as it is, the thing you'll notice is that it's stable, it works, it's great, the theming's great, but there are a couple rough edges just around the corners that aren't big enough that would justify a huge stable release update going through the regular Ubuntu process, where you have to have justification, regression potential, all that sort of thing. Really where it comes in is we just want an opt-in option for somebody to be able to enable this. And okay, you get all these little tiny fixes that we've been working on that aren't justified with the normal process, but they work and we've tested them and we have high confidence that they're going to be good for the average system. So
does this work for things like Audacity? Let's say there's a newer version of Audacity that comes in that you all have in testing, or is this only Lubuntu kind of back-end infrastructure that will be loaded in the backport PPAs?
So we're sort of loose with it. If there's a specific user requirement, like, hey, can we get this newer version of VLC or something? Sure. My personal pet project for the backports is I always put Vim in there. So the latest version of Vim is always in that backports repository.
You just made a lot of people happy saying that. A lot of the Vim users just cheered right now.
Well, let me even add on to this point. We are the only Ubuntu flavor to ship Vim and HTOP by default.
Yes.
So, perfect for distro reviewers. We'd love to see your videos, screenshots, and all of that, because we'd like to make it easier, and we do listen to user feedback on those sorts of things.
Very cool.
So what was the motivation behind shipping Vim by default?
Personal preference. I got sick and tired of having to reinstall it on my own distribution every time.
Nice.
And thank you
Makes
for
sense.
One of the
throwing
advantages
HTOP in
of
there.
decision there.
That
And you're
is
doing
cool.
really well with the interview, Simon, because there's two people you don't want to mess with in this whole Linux and open source world: Vim users and Wendy. And you are definitely speaking positively to both of those groups.
Yeah.
So, good job.
It's also really cool because you were talking about, we kind of glazed over this in a little bit, but when you talked about the backports PPA, there's two different versions of that PPA. So when I covered this on Twill, we talked about the possibility of 23.10 having a backports PPA added to it. But you didn't stop there. You actually added the PPA for 22.04, which is the LTS. So people who want to have the latest and greatest, it's not even just they have to be on the every 6 months thing. They can just be on the LTS and still get that. So what's the difference between the work involved and having the LTS included versus the latest version of Lubuntu?
Very respectfully, you have it backwards. It's the 2204 backports are actually what we really target, what we really focus on when we're shipping those backports updates. We do a lot more testing in terms of let's install it, reinstall it, press every little button, and we almost follow our complete testing checklist we do for every release. So 2204, the backports for that, it's essentially a copy of what's in the current 2404 archive, just with a lower version number. So if you do that upgrade, it'll install the correct packages for you that are built against the correct things. So it's what you're getting in backports is what you would be getting if you installed 2404, except it's only the stable stuff.
Okay, nice. So are there anything else that could be applied to this? So the PPAs, there are kernel PPAs, there's other things. How much hardware enablement can you do with these backport PPAs?
You can do quite a bit. We've sort of hesitated on doing those wider reaching Mesa updates or driver updates like that, specifically for two reasons. A, we want to keep the focus of the PPA sort of narrow. And B, really, I wouldn't say we have not enough expertise, but just not enough QA time to really go through and test all of those really specific hardware elements. And there's teams dedicated to doing that out there for the existing LTS releases. And I don't see any reason why those PPAs wouldn't be compatible with each other.
Nice. That'd be very cool to see. Hopefully that does happen in the future. But earlier, Ryan talked about a rumor, and we need to get back to that rumor because I want to know more about this information. So the backports PPA, we've heard that there is a possibility that in the future, they're going to be able to enable that by default during install. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Woohoo.
Not only that, there are quite a few other installer bits landing for 2404. So originally, back when Lubuntu switched to LXQt back in 1810, we needed to do something about the installer. So the existing installer that Lubuntu was using was the GTK front end for Ubiquity, Ubuntu's old default installer. And it worked just fine. It just fit in with none of our theming and just looked like an oddball. So we investigated using the front end that KDE uses instead. Well, turns out that front end was a pretty messily written piece of Qt4 code that was just sort of hacked together a couple of years prior to that. And it had a bunch of KDE specific strings and icons and everything hard coded right into the code. So rather than go through the entire mess of detangling Ubiquity and, we need to do this, that, and not actually have it maintained by Canonical. Canonical does not They'll ship Qt front ends for things, for example, the software properties menu. But the little secret is Canonical only supports the GTK front end for that. It's up to the Qt flavors to support those Qt front ends for that. It is what it is. But we decided to go a completely different direction besides just using Ubiquity. We decided to go with Calamares. Now, Calamares is used by default from my recollection, at the very least, Manjaro and Debian actually uses it as its default graphical installer. So we found that it was a solid choice, not only because of its now former support by KDE officially, but because of the fact that we're working on a project that's not only used by Lubuntu, but it's used by a bunch of other people. So in our initial testing with that, our goal was just to get the basics up and running, but we found, hey, this is faster than Ubiquity is. This is faster than the default Ubuntu install. That's really powerful. So we continue to sort of polish ends, and there's always been a couple of wish list items like, oh, add the minimal install and add this or add that. This cycle we're delivering 100% full stop. We not only have the minimal install in the 2404 ISOs now working, which is an improvement over 2310, we have some features that aren't even quite polished yet in the default Ubuntu installer. So ZFS support's been in there for a long time. I know they just reintroduced it again, but it's sort of experimental. Calamares has tried and true ZFS support. That among some of the UI elements we've been working on. So there's going to be a menu, sort of like the Ubuntu server installer, kind of, sort of, where it's going to allow you to select specific applications you'd like to install by default. So it just grabs it down right as part of the install. And we're actually working on streamlining that configuration process. So you can just throw it a file, boot up the ISO, and it'll just download and install all your default apps. We're really looking to streamline that. And I'll go a little bit more into the specific automation bits with Noah later this week. But generally speaking, the installer's seeing a huge refresh and a huge improvement. And the 4 applications we have in there right now, off the top of my head, are Element as a snap, so Matrix clients, Virt Manager, so support for virtual machines, that's installed right from the archive. And there's 2 others that are not off the top of my head, but are useful applications that will be shipped as part of that process, as part of the engineering for actually doing that in the ISO. So a technical bit that people might not fully understand if you're newer to Linux, and that's totally okay, is when you're installing a snap on a system, it doesn't actually have compatibility with the CH root. So you have to do some manual steps of just downloading the snap package and whatever else that you wouldn't have to do with the normal snap install. So we actually split all of that logic out from the ISO tooling that Ubuntu has, and it's now in its own standalone script for the first time. So that's going to enable a lot of distributors who want to precede and install snaps by default to be able to use that script and that technology to enable that.
Aw, Simon. So many cool things are coming to Lubuntu. What are other exciting things that are coming that we can look forward to?
So a couple of things that were just done this past week. Bluetooth configuration in terms of UI, full feature parity with other flavors. So it is a GTK app that we have to install. So I'm kind of about that. But our long-term goal would just be to port that to Qt, and we're all good to go. So it's Blue Man, and I'm actually using it right now for these earbuds on my 2404 install. And it's working wonderfully. So we have that. We're writing a brand new Qt-based, very, very lightweight connection editor for Network Manager. Nice. That's still in the works. The prototype's mostly done, but one of our contributors, Aaron Rainbolt, is working on that, and he's doing an amazing job. I've seen screenshots so far, and he's really hitting the nail on the head. Nice. You're going to have some more customized settings in terms of, do you want to update daily? Do you want to update never, once a day or once a week, that sort of thing? A lot of fine-tuned settings are also coming in this release, along with an intuitive way to just enable backports, like I said, either within the installer or within the regular install. So a lot of great stuff coming in this upcoming release.
I feel like that update never was designed for me.
How do you mean?
Because I don't update hardly ever. So.
Oh yeah. The
Just
update
creating.
feature. Yeah. That brings a good question. Just for Michael, Simon, can we write something that just behind the scenes forces Michael to update his machine?
Yeah,
like
it detects
a little
me,
script.
and then it just updates.
Yeah.
That's called snaps.
There we go. Yeah. It's
That's
perfect
true.
for you. All right. So Simon, a lot of exciting things coming to Lubuntu. Actually, some of the most exciting things I think that have been happening with Lubuntu in a really long time. I mean, there's always good stuff going on, but you've got a lot that's coming down the pipe here in a very short period of time, which is awesome. So thank you for coming on the show to kind of go over and give us some hints about that. Thank you for putting up with Michael at the Ubuntu Summit, but we must put you through the lightning round of questions. Now, these are perhaps the most important questions of the show.
The most important question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the goal here is we're going to ask the question as fast as we can, and you have to give us the answer right off the top of your head. There are lots of wrong answers, so just put that out there. You know, people say there's no wrong answer. No, there's lots of wrong answers.
There's no right
here.
or wrong
And,
answer, Simon.
So, the very first question, hard hitting. Again, apologize. I know you didn't get these ahead of time or anything, but favorite candy bar?
Snickers or Twix?
Oh,
No, Kit Kats. Snickers or Kit Kats. I was thinking Kit Kats, but said Twix. Anyway.
Yeah.
Nice.
Left or right Twix, by the way?
Don't have a preference.
Well,
They're both the same.
Man, clearly
They're
the
both
left
the same.
Twix is.
He doesn't get it right. He doesn't get it.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I just don't have a preference.
No, when you try them, you will. What we're saying
You'll
is
notice
left
it.
Twix is clearly superior to the right
Left
Twix.
Twix is the rest Twix.
I've tried them. I barely notice a difference. It doesn't.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. The best DE in your opinion. And by the way, you can't say LXQt or GNOME or any other thing that's obscure, and it has to start with a K.
KDE.
Okay, perfect.
Michael, what kind of question is that, Michael? You remove every option but KDE.
I mean, to be
I
fair,
think it was fair.
To be fair, if I had to rate my favorite desktop environments, number one would be obviously LXQt. Number two would probably be KDE. Number three is a tie between either probably Mate or Budgie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, those are good choices.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Simon, what is your favorite? A muffin or a cupcake?
You guys have asked me this in person.
Yes,
It would be a
It's on the
muffin.
record now.
Yay. Michael's happy.
So, Wendy, just cut that out and make him
Muffin.
say cupcake, Wendy, right
Me and
there. when
Ryan
you're
prefer the
editing
cupcake.
this episode.
Just put when Ryan said cupcake, put that into Simon's answer.
Yeah.
Here, I'll even say cupcake for you.
Oh,
There you
go.
Yeah, put that
No.
Just
So
dub it
muffin is
over.
the answer. We know this. That muffin is the best. So it's been declared by Simon that Ryan is
Aw.
incorrect.
So Simon, you're going to scale next year as well, right?
Yay.
We'll see you there. Awesome. Just out of curiosity, we're all friends here and everything. The DL host you were most excited to meet last year at Scale was who?
Person I was excited to meet at Scale.
Yeah, the DL host.
The
Specifically,
DL
one of us.
host.
Yeah, that you were most excited to meet. Yeah,
Well, I've seen Michael around a couple of times. I know Michael. Michael's
that's not very exciting. Yeah.
Michael's a good friend. So probably Ryan or Jill.
I was included. I can't believe it. Michael and I said he's definitely just going to say Jill. Thank you, Simon. I know you were being kind there. You didn't have to fake the answer, but we appreciate it.
He just wanted you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah,
Ryan.
yeah,
That's
I
all.
appreciate it. All right, and the last question,
Yeah.
Michael.
So the last one
he's made.
is: what is a hidden talent that most people don't know about you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm really good at drifting.
Really
Nice.
Really good at
like
it.
a car,
Yeah.
not like one of those finger skateboards or anything.
No,
a real
no.
car.
I'm really good at finger
Car.
skateboard drifting.
Yeah,
No, I love drifting my car in the Wisconsin weather. It's amazing. Great
that
stuff.
is amazing. That's a credible.
We need to have so in the next time at Scale, we're gonna have like a drifting session and a parkour session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Who's going to compete against Simon though in the drifting? I can't compete because I'd never find where we're supposed to go to start.
You would compete. You would just, but because drifting is perfect for you because you would just constantly go in a circle.
I'm lost.
And Simon,
Yeah.
I can't drive because I'm half blind. So you
Joe,
win me.
you could drift then.
Drift.
Just
All
get
you
the
need to
back
do
of
is
the seat.
get one direction. You're good.
But
Yeah, that's a really cool. How did you pick
Yeah.
up drifting out of curiosity? What
That's really
started
cool.
your talent there?
So I did a little side delivery work for a little bit, and I drive with a lead foot. I have, some speeding tickets and all of that. But no, like I love being able to drift my car, and I just did it enough times out of just wanting to do it that I became good at it.
Were you inspired by Fast and Furious?
Actually, no.
Okay, well, good. That means it didn't
It's all about family, people.
All about family.
Speaking of driving, you drove to Scale, and you went many miles.
Oh yeah,
to come to Scale.
well, I mean, it was a day and a half drive each way, so it wasn't terrible. Wasn't too bad. I mean, nothing.
Oh,
I mean, it was bad. It was a day and a half drive.
Not when you're drifting.
Well,
Not when you're drifting all the way.
I doubt he's drifting on the highway towards Scale.
And I just want to tell you, Simon, it was so wonderful to meet you at the last Scale 20X. You've been such a great friend to us here at Destination Linux and the Text Digital Network. And it was just so much fun to be able to spend time with you. We had a nice dinner together. It was so cool. And it was nice to give you a hug. It was nice to hug you.
Mm-hmm. It was, I started in the community when I was 13 years old, something like that. But it was really amazing to have my 21st birthday at a Linux conference.
Yes, that was incredible. Oh, that's right.
We were awesome.
Celebrating that night. That was so much fun.
And that's why, for those who don't know, we called Simon the original prodigy, because he's been working in incredibly advanced areas of Linux and open source, contributing to it from a kid.
Yeah.
From a kid on up, and now you're an adult. So you're the original prodigy, and you've just done so many amazing, incredible things for open source and Linux, and we appreciate all the contributions that you've made there.
Of course.
And we're glad you got your 21st birthday right in a Linux fest. That's perfect.
That's the best.
Yeah. Yes. It was awesome because the day before he was like, "Hey, guess what?" I'm like, "What? My birthday's tomorrow, 21st." Like, I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Easy to make plans with that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
At one of the best conferences in the world, the Southern California Linux Expo.
So, Simon, thank you so much for joining us and all the work you do in Linux and open source. We love having you on the show and can't wait to have you back on. Feel free to come back on. You talk about the next release of Ubuntu or anything whenever you want to. Just let us know. We'll make room for you. So, and it was great that the Destination Linux crew and we all got to meet at the last Scale and having it like a nice dinner and everything.
We're going to do it
like
again
Jill
next
said.
year.
And we're going to do it again this year.
Absolutely.
And also, thanks again for joining us on Destination Linux.
Are there a couple things I can just I can plug real quick?
Oh yeah,
that was a voice crack. No, so I'm going to be on Ask Noah Show this upcoming Tuesday. Listen at 6 p.m. Central Time, or go to asknoahshow.com. We'll be talking about more of the specific automation aspects and a lot of the cool stuff coming to Lubuntu. Yesterday, I was also on Linux Saloon, and we talked about a lot of great stuff on that. But this upcoming week, they're actually featuring Lubuntu as their distribution to try. So if you're part of the Linux Saloon community, if you've always wanted to get involved, definitely I would recommend attending next week's Zoom call, because it's going to be a lot of amazing Lubuntu content.
Very cool. Nice. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Otherwise, you can follow Lubuntu on Twitter at Lubuntu Official. The latest public announcements, as soon as I make something public, it goes on Twitter. And I know there are some folks who don't enjoy Twitter for whatever reason, but we're working on a cross poster. We're working on it.
Yeah, and it's not Twitter, Simon. It's X. Come on.
True.
Get with the times.
It's Twitter.
Get with the times.
Twitter X.
Zitter.
So instead of calling it a tweet, what do you call it?
An X.
An X.
An X.
An X.
Okay, to be clear, we're giving you a hard time about it, but we also all call it Twitter and also call it tweets.
It will always be
tweets. We're not joining this ridiculous X.
Yeah, we're too
movement.
old to change.
And I like birds.
Yeah, we're too old to change.
I want birds.
You want birds, Jill? Yeah. That was random.
Honestly, I feel like Elon Musk changed it to X just because he owned the domain and wanted to do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
that's
a cool
what
domain
I feel
to
like.
own, frankly. Like, it's not the worst domain. All right. Well, we could talk for hours. Simon, again, thank you for coming, and we'll have you on the show real soon.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys.
This episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by LINBIT. LINBIT has been keeping digital businesses running for over 20 years. They're the makers of open source products like DRBD, which is high availability software that has been part of the Linux kernel since 2010, and LinStore, industry-leading open source software-defined storage. LINBIT has an active presence in the open source community, and they collaborate with the community to help identify and build new features. LINBIT provides enterprise-grade software that runs on a variety of platforms and OSs without vendor lock-in. What that means is that you could use the software on any platform, including specific hardware that you want to use, or just off-the-shelf hardware that you get and connect it. All of this stuff can be interchanged really easily. And with DRBD and LinStore, you can have high-speed replicated block storage in almost any configuration, whether it's Kubernetes, Apache Cloud, or OpenNebula. There's even DRBD proxy for long-distance replication. LINBIT is run by its founders to this day, and all of its engineers and developers are in-house with offices in Europe and North America, which allows them to have global 24/7 support to complement their enterprise offerings. Visit linbit.com to learn more about the people behind LINBIT and the awesome software for block storage, duplication, and more.
Do you like first-person puzzler games like Valve's Portal and Portal 2 like I do?
Yes.
If you do, one of my all-time favorite first-person puzzlers just released an amazing sequel, The Talos Principle 2. Woohoo!
Nice.
We've waited almost 10 years for this sequel, so it's pretty exciting. And on the Steam website, the game actually describes itself like this. The Talos Principle 2 is a thought-provoking first-person puzzle experience that greatly expands on the first game's philosophical themes and stunning environments with increasingly mind-bending challenges.
I'm out.
The mind-bending part is too much.
I have to do this at work. You know, I've got to figure out these very complex solutions for things and data, and I never got into puzzle games. I love that people like you exist, Jill, that love these games. I, on the other hand...
Wait a minute, what about Portal?
Yeah,
yes, I enjoyed Portal and some of the solving there, but when I think of when people talk about puzzle games, it's like, oh, go figure out that you're supposed to click on this random thing that's hidden in the corner of a room 8 rooms away that you came from.
Some puzzle games are excessively complicated.
Yeah,
and you run over here and pull the 3rd rung of a ladder, and then you jump 2 times and skip, and you're supposed to know that because of the wingding font characters that you translated from a tablet that was at the very beginning of the game. That type of crap, just who has time for
you
this?
played this for 3 hours, and the thing that you did the first 2 minutes, you need to reference that and then put that.
I love that stuff. No. I love the very surreal, puzzles like that. That really
if they
make
were paying
me think that
to solve it for them, I would do it. But otherwise, no.
But
I'm sorry, I don't mean to take away from something you enjoy, Jill.
But no problem. Actually, Ryan, Talos Principle is a lot like playing Portal. In fact, it's heavily influenced on Portal. It has, a great story and breathtaking cinematics, which actually answer a lot of the questions from the original Talos Principle game. But you won't get any spoilers from me. No, sirree. I don't want to.
How much do I have to pay, Jill? If I give you $1,000, would you give me a spoiler?
Yeah. Well, the first.
Well, then I guess we could get spoilers for you.
Ryan, if you had played the first Portal, it actually had 3 endings, which is really cool.
And, that is neat. I like games that have multiple endings.
It's really fun. And what's really cool with Talos Principle 2 is you get to use the classic game mechanics you know and love from the original, as well as new awesome puzzle mechanics. And it builds up slowly, like in Portal. They hold your hand, kind of through the process
of a lot of that,
using the new mechanics. So this will be very useful for Ryan.
Put that to the test maybe on live stream. I get stuck in the intro.
We'll see, people. We'll see how much it helps your hand.
Click start, Ryan. Really?
Yeah.
The puzzle.
How do you turn this game on? Well, first you had to start with your computer being powered on, Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, man, these puzzles.
The game did not tell me this.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you would also, Ryan, and even from the original, a lot of you interact with the terminal, and guess what? it's Unix based and Linux based.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now you got me peaked a little bit. Yeah. That I could rock. I figured I could knock out some puzzles in the terminal.
Yes.
But I see this other sentence here that says the maps are huge.
Yeah.
And I get lost in a McDonald's parking lot.
Oh.
So I couldn't imagine.
The best part about the best part about a statement like that is that you get lost in the McDonald's parking lot looking for Chick-fil-A.
Exactly.
Yes, that is a positive. Maps are huge and are even more detailed. And, the sound design and music has been really greatly expanded. Ryan, I especially love that Talos Principle 2 has heavy elements of exploration and puzzle solving to satiate your curiosity. So you don't always have to be exploring. In fact, the exploring elements are again fairly not too complex. It gets
Do they have like arrows that point you where you're supposed to go? Those are the games I do the best in, where it's got a built-in GPS function in the video game itself. Where
he also wants to have a map on the bottom left that tells you where he is.
I know, he needs maps. But the map, he needs a Thomas guy. Beyond just Google Maps, you need a physical
Street View.
book.
I need it all. Yeah, I need all kinds of different things. So, Michael, you made a joke earlier, which I found very offensive, about the whole in a McDonald's parking lot looking for a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
and I want to tell you that not so long ago, I pull into this parking lot, right? And I want to go to Cane's. And for people who have a Cane's near them, you know how good these chicken fingers are. Like they're amazing. Cane's is absolutely incredible. And then there's this other restaurant that's in the same parking lot, but I can't figure out how to get to the Cane's. So I think I'm at Cane's, but I end up pulling into Jack in the Box. Now, I know there are fans of Jack in the Box. No offense to you, but this is the worst food on the planet in comparison to Cane's. It's like, and so what do? I see Cane's over there in the distance. When I say distance, I mean like 50 yards away. But I'm like, I'm already here. So I end up eating at Jack in the Box with a very disappointing experience because I got lost in the parking lot to Jack in the Box trying to get to Cane's. So
you're one of the people that actually has to go out to the road first and then loop back.
No, Jill, he's not, because he gave up and just ate Jack in the Box.
Hey, they have good tacos at Jack in the Box.
I just knew I would get more lost if I exited that parking lot and tried to get to Cane's.
They have an excellent Oreo cookie shake. That's one of my favorite things at Jack in the Box. So anyways.
The best part about this topic, the best part about that story, Ryan, is that when there's a lot of comedians and it will say, not too long ago or recently, and those things are not true when they say that. The comedians are typically saying that because it means that was like a year ago they thought of this joke or whatever.
Right.
But when you said that, knowing when you moved to a place that has Cane's, it has to have been recently.
It has to have been recently.
Very recently. It's because it's new, I'm just, I'm still learning where I'm at a year later.
You're learning about all the different fast foods in town.
About 5 minutes from the road. I can't wait till Michael comes and visits me again, and then I can take him to the parking lot I get lost in. Because now that I've had time to live here, it's so clear which parking lot goes where. But in that moment,
he wants to test me and see if I can see it.
Can you navigate us back to Cane's? Yeah.
Well, the Talos Principle 2 is $29.99
that's what we're talking about
on Steam, and it's worth every penny. And it's about the same price as taking two people to a fast food restaurant these days.
About one person nowadays.
Yeah, one person really. But what is really awesome also is that, again, like I said at the beginning of the segment, is that we have been actually waiting since December of 2014 for a new release. It's almost 10 years.
That's incredible.
That is crazy. Also, I haven't played this game yet for the first one, so I've been waiting 10 seconds.
10 seconds, yeah. And actually, a lot of Linux users out there may have the same experience. Many of us Linux users got to experience the Vulkan engine for the first time with the original Talos Principle. In fact, Talos Principle
cool.
is
I know that.
Yeah, it's the first to have Vulkan, and it was also it's also the game I go to do benchmarking on different computers for game benchmarking. The original Talos Principle was based on the Serious engine of the Serious Sam game franchise by Crow Team. And the Talos Principle 2, they changed up their game engine, and it's now based on the beautiful Unreal Engine 5. So that's really
Nice.
cool. And
yeah, that is pretty cool.
it is really nice. And although there isn't a Linux native port, it works great on the Steam Deck and on Proton. So,
Well, tell us, you need to fix that. We need a native port.
I know. Yeah,
at least it works in Proton. Good enough.
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
good enough as long as we can play it.
I know a little background story. The Linux developers had left Crow Team and went to actually Valve to work on Proton.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're where they're at then.
Yeah. That's unfortunate for Crow Team,
It
but
is.
also good for Valve and Proton.
Absolutely.
So,
so we got a nice trade-off there. We got Talos Principle working on the Steam Deck, no matter what.
Now, Jill, in our software spotlight this week, if I want to send an email to Talos Principles devs to tell them I want a native Linux port, is there a suggestion you might have in our software spotlight?
Absolutely, Ryan. There's one new one that was just brought to our attention called Prospect Mail. And it comes to us from the community. In fact, Eric wrote us to suggest this, and he states, Excel is great, and I wish I could have it on Linux. The topic of a certain suite working on Linux, I wanted to share a new discovery to me, Prospect Mail, which seems like a pretty full-featured clone. Definitely worth checking out for those of us with work emails on one of these tenant things.
Yeah.
And we have the link, of course, in the show notes. And Prospect Mail is actually an unofficial Outlook client using Electron. It uses the web app and wraps it as a standalone application. This only works for Microsoft Office 365 accounts, and it doesn't work for personal Outlook.com accounts.
So what you're saying is that
basically,
this is good for some people who need to. So it's great that Ryan's kind of transition to this particular topic was him admitting that he uses Microsoft 365.
Yes.
So that's
listen. I have to use Office 365 for my professional environment. Nice try, Michael. Personally, I use Thunderbird. Thank you very much. And Proton
personally
Mail.
use Outlook. Yeah.
I don't use Outlook.
So,
Michael.
Prospect Mail is actually available for Linux, Windows 10 and higher, and Mac
Michael.
OS.
It's available for Windows 10.
And
what are you talking about? You're the one using Microsoft Office 365.
Yes. And on Linux, there's actually a deb, an app image, Pacman, RPM, Snap, and tar.gz are available to download of Prospect Mail.
Nice.
And thank you so much, Eric, for bringing Prospect Mail to our attention. This is honestly the reason why we have Electron apps. This is, a brilliant use of Electron to bring a major web app to the Linux desktop. So it's just right there on your desktop. No need to go to your web browser.
Very nice.
So pretty
Thanks
cool.
for sending that in, Eric. Appreciate it.
All right. So this tip of the week this week is going to be pretty fun because Ryan decided to add in a little bit of extra stuff to it. So we'll see when we get to it. So this week, many people will be meeting with their family and eating lots of turkey in the U.S. because Thanksgiving is right around the corner, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
So my tip of this for this week is about recipes. And we're going to talk about my go-to turkey recipe for my family because it's the absolute best way to make a turkey. It's a secret family recipe that Ryan insisted that I do. So
hold on. Before you give the recipe, I have to let people know that Michael had no idea that I was going to force him, and I had no idea if he even had a family secret recipe. So you have one, and we're about to. One. This is Michael's. Okay, here we go.
This is great. It's no longer a secret anymore, so he's ruining that part. But so he said that we're gonna. He said that we're gonna do like recipes. Like, okay, sure. Then I look in the notes like this morning, and it says share a secret family recipe. Like, well, challenge accepted. All right, so for a smoked turkey specifically, we're going to give you the recipe for the dry rub. Okay, so it's half cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 4 applewood chunks. This is actually perfect because I'm not really a chef of any kind. I'm not a very good cook. And this was sent to me because I requested my sister to send me the recipe.
The secret family recipe?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And I also said it wrong. I think I said 1 tablespoon of paprika. It's a teaspoon of paprika. That's a lot of.
Someone just ruined their turkey thanks to you, Michael. They're over there gagging. What kind of family secret recipe is this? The paprika
It's like too much
so
paprika. If anybody wants to know the actual recipe, I'll put it in the show notes because why not?
Yeah.
But you can also store it in your actual tip of the week, which is the recipes app from GNOME, and it's available as a flat pack. So you can go to the Flat Hub and get GNOME recipes. And since we're talking about family tradition, it makes sense because this app is not exactly named GNOME recipes. It's just named recipes because GNOME has a traditional terrible naming scheme of just naming things a typical word that makes it impossible to search for. So you have to add GNOME in the front and say GNOME recipes if you would like to find it, or you can also check out the show notes. That might seem like a little bit harsh to say, but holidays are about good food and annoying your family members with brutally honest opinions about topics that they're not even interested in talking about. So I think it fits perfectly.
Feeling the holiday spirit as soon as you said that. Like I had all these memories coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
So recipes comes with a collection of recipes that have been collected by the GNOME contributors, which is pretty cool. And it also lets you store your own recipes, like the one you'll find in the show notes, and share them with your friends. The major features of GNOME recipes is add and edit your own recipes, share recipes with friends, export and print shopping lists, which is pretty nice. Adjust quantities based on the number of servings, and many, many more things. So you'll find out more information if you check out the link in the show notes for the tip of the week, which is GNOME recipes and apparently the super secret family recipe of smoked turkeys.
You had to ask your sister what is our
I had to ask my
super
sister what it
secret
was.
family recipe. Nice. That's awesome. Good job, Michael. You pulled that off. I was trying to trip you up, but I thought for sure there's no way you have a secret family turkey recipe.
Yeah, you did not trip me up with the recipe. I tripped myself up trying to say the recipe.
Yeah, there you go. We talked to Simon earlier. We were talking about going to Scale, and Scale 2024 is scheduled for March 14th through the 17th of 2024. So if you want to take part and have fun with the entire DL crew right there at this event, it's Pasadena Convention Center in Pasadena, California. You can come hang out with us and see us there, and lots of other amazing people and booths. And it's got Jill. I mean, what else do we have to
That's all we need to say.
Yeah. And a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. You can come join us on our Discord at tuxdigital.com/Discord. And if you want to watch the show live, you can become a patron of Destination Linux and you get that awesome perk.
And watching live is just one of the great perks that you get by becoming a patron. So we go to tuxdigital.com/membership to become a patron. And in addition to all of that, you get the value of unedited versions and ad-free versions of the show. So if you want to get the unedited, unabashed, unabridged version of the show and all the nonsense that happens with Ryan's particular part specifically is tuxdigital.com/membership. And you also can join us for the patron-only post show, which happens every week after the show. And we just hang out with our patrons for 30 minutes to an hour, however long it might be. Who knows? You can do that by going to tuxdigital.com/membership. And also, if you want to support the show and the network, you can go to tuxdigital.com/store. When you go to tuxdigital.com/store, you'll find awesome stuff like we have swag that's Destination Linux shirts. We have Hardware Addict shirts, Linux 91 hats, all sorts of cool stuff because we have hoodies, mugs, hats, t-shirts, and just stickers and so much more. In fact, we're making some changes to the store. So if you go to the tuxdigital.com/store soon, maybe around the Black Friday time, I'm not totally sure, but maybe around that time, then you might find some new stuff to get there because we're switching over the stores, which means new items. And
you're either going to be an OG or you're not. Let's be honest. So you're either going to have some OG from our original store or you're going to come with the new stuff. And both are fine. But the OG people, if you come and see us at the conference, we're going to know you've been around a long time. We're going to instantly know.
But also the OG stuff is good, but also the new stuff might even be better because it shows that they're continually supporting the show.
It's true.
And, so...
Wear both. Wear both at a conference. Have the new shirt over top of the old shirt.
Yes, exactly.
So show us that.
Or you could do like a DIY project where you cut both shirts in half and then stitch them together.
Oh, man.
And
That would be the ultimate fan
That's
there.
sweet.
Exactly.
Also, make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your entire week with awesome geeky goodness. Check out Linux Out Loud with Matt, Nate, and Wendy having a blast and sharing their passion for Linux and open source. And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all of these incredible shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
Everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Unless you're Turkey, then the destination is dead.
Then you don't want to get to that destination.
You don't want to get there.
You're not going to like the journey either.
Journey.
See you next week, everybody.